Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Black Ops 4 In Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the Swordfish, which is the last of the tactical rifles that we shall be reviewing amongst the base guns. We'll see what comes in the contraband stream later on. And this was another episode that was overall a joy for me to make. Getting the gameplay wasn't hard, and it was nice and relaxing to use a weapon that is good. Let's start off talking about one of the things that's not so good about this weapon though, which is its damage. It'll only deal 34 damage up close, and it'll drop off to 27 damage at a significant range. What this means is that it is a 5 to 6 shot kill, depending on how far away you are, and that is very mediocre for Black Ops 4. That is more like an SMG that's on the lower end of rifles, and that's especially not what you want on a burst rifle that's going to have some kind of delay associated with it. Headshots are 10% bonus damage, and high caliber is 45% bonus damage, so I think you're going to see where this next bit's going ahead of time. That regular headshots will never cause you to get a one burst kill, and they are completely useless. If you're not running high caliber, don't bother with headshots whatsoever. You might as well just go for body shots. However, getting a single high caliber headshot and then 3 normal shots will grant you a one burst kill. So as long as one of your high caliber bullets hit them in the head, you can one burst somebody with the Swordfish, and that significantly improves its time to kill and is almost certainly the best way to use the weapon. Rate of fire is 900 rounds per minute, which is quite fast for Black Ops 4. That is on the higher end of weapons. That is really fast. I measured a burst delay of 185 milliseconds. This is similar to the M8A1 from Black Ops 2. It's not as fast. If I'm going off of memory here, the good old M8A1 had a lesser burst delay and the rate of fire itself was a little bit faster, but this is similar in feel. I believe this is Treyarch's new iteration of the ever so popular M8A1, and they're trying to do it in a way that's more balanced and less broken like the old one. The base time to kill on the Swordfish is slow. That's because you always need 2 bursts to kill, and if somebody's running armor, that can get worse. That's just the nature of it. It wouldn't have an amazing time to kill even without the 2 burst thing, but the 2 burst kills it. However, the time to kill is much better if you get high caliber headshots. It becomes a much stronger and more competitive weapon, and that is going to be certainly the way to go. We will talk about Pentaburst here very shortly. The 5-shot kill range on the Swordfish is approximately 45 meters, or extremely long range, especially for multiplayer Black Ops 4. If you put long barrel on this weapon, that's going to double the 5-shot range. I don't know, I guess 90 meters. I have no idea why you would need to shoot somebody that far away, and you only get a 10% penalty with a suppressor, which in my opinion is top tier. I would gladly turn that 45 into a 41 in order to get the suppressor and stay off the radar and make a little bit less noise, and that's why in a lot of the gameplay here you do see me running the suppressor on the Swordfish. The built-in optics for this weapon are really good, and I prefer them over any optical attachment. I didn't like them at first. I thought that the ABR had the best optics, and I still think it has the best optics, but the Swordfish is a close second. They became very comfortable for me over a very short period of time, and I don't really think that it's necessary to run any fancy optical attachments on the Swordfish. A side note though, if you do run an optical attachment, the thermal is kind of funny. It has much lower recoil than I expected and was far more usable than I expected, though I probably wouldn't call it good in the traditional sense. Recoil on this weapon is very low, and it has a slight vertical kick. It is almost a laser, but not quite. My general advice for you, and what I did for most of this gameplay when I remembered to do it, because I'm a bad kid and I don't always go for headshots, is I like to aim for the upper chest and neck. I like to think if I hit them above the nipples and below the chin, I'll most likely get 2 to the chest, and the last one might hit the neck or head, and I get that headshot multiplier and get a 1-burst kill. That's the way to go. It's by the time the weapon resettles, it's almost going to go back to its starting position, so it's very, very easy to use from that front. HIPFIRE is pretty good on the Swordfish. Just because it spams a lot, it doesn't have a numerically better or tighter HIPFIRE spread than the other tactical rifles. Actually would be worse than the ABR and the Auger because you can't put a laser sight on this one. But it just shoots a whole bunch of bullets really fast, and sometimes that works, especially with Pentaburst. Sometimes if you point blank people, you can just like point blank HIPFIRE them. And speaking of Pentaburst, let's talk about it. The operator mod makes the Swordfish fire 1 more bullet per burst. So instead of a a 4-round burst, it becomes a 5-round burst weapon, and that is very, very beneficial. This essentially guarantees you the ability to get a 1-burst kill without having to get any headshots. Almost everybody I see using the Swordfish online is running the Pentaburst, and I think that's because it is the best way to most consistently get 1-burst kills. No special aiming, no headshots, nothing to really fool with, and it's quite spammable like this as well, at least 1 burst at a time. Speaking of that, the rate of fire is unchanged at 900 RPM, but I did measure an increase in burst delay with Pentaburst. That kind of surprised me. I didn't think that would happen, but I did pick up a little increase in burst delay there. And just as a side note, when I played this game, I played a lot with the 4-round burst, the standard mode, and I got a really good timing for it. By the time it came time to use Pentaburst, I was pulling the trigger at the wrong time, and it took me a little bit of time to readjust and relearn the weapon. So when you first unlock this operator mod, and you probably will want to try it out and use it, just give it a game or two to get used to the longer burst, because I got screwed up myself. Now, we do have a Quick Draw 1 and 2 attachment available on the Swordfish. Your base aim down sights time is 285 milliseconds, which is the same as the other tactical rifles and pretty similar to ARs and SMGs, and actually most of the guns in this game have a pretty similar aim down sights time. With Quick Draw 1, you get a minor improvement down to 250 milliseconds. With Quick Draw 2, you get a much more significant improvement at 165 milliseconds, and you can be very, very snappy with your aim. And I don't know if it's a drawback or a benefit, depending on what you like, but it also has the lower field of view and lower zoom on your optics, which I personally find very annoying. I'm very comfortable with the base field of view and the base zoom on the Swordfish optics, so I really don't like it zoomed out like that. I strongly dislike that. Reload time is 1.85 seconds. Hybrid mags is 1.3 seconds flat, which is pretty good, but I find that the Swordfish has enough base ammo, and you put Pentaburst in there, you have extra bullets anyway. You almost always have enough bullets to kill people, so I don't really think it's great to always have hybrid mags ready, because I just didn't reload it all that much. The weapon does allow for FMJ to be attached, and it's one of the few weapons that I don't prefer FMJ on. It has enough damage output, and I'm typically going for headshots with it or pentabursting people, so FMJ isn't just a necessary attachment. When it comes to my overall rating and recommendation for the weapon, the Swordfish is not statistically the best weapon in the game, but it is very easy to use, and that's why you see so many people using it. However, if you use this weapon with high caliber and a suppressor, it can become much, much better. High caliber cuts your time to kill a lot. You kind of nuke people faster than they know how to react. The suppressor has essentially no penalty. If you wanted to be really cheesy, which I have done more than a few times, you can stack high cal suppressor and Pentaburst and just start laying damage downstream, but that's not the best way to use the class. I think just plain Jane high caliber and suppressor is going to be the best class setup for the Swordfish. Like this, as long as you get a headshot, you can get a 1-shot, 1-burst kill. You can stay off the radar. You don't really need Quick Draw 1 or 2. You don't really need FMJ or long barrel or advanced mags or anything like that. You get pretty much all that you need here, and you have built basic default optics that are very functional. I would take this and then run more perks or load out my secondary or just run something else a little bit more creative, because you don't need a lot for the Swordfish to work well. Now, it may work well in multiplayer with a certain set of attachments, but in Blackout, it's one of the worst weapons that you can pick up. The Swordfish is truly loathsome in that mode. Like the other tactical rifles, you can put any level of zoom on it from a holographic sight all the way up to a sniper scope, but if you put a sniper scope on there, you should just say a prayer, because it's insanely hard to hit anything, which is why the Swordfish is so bad. It just has way too much recoil in Blackout to be useful for long-range engagements. Most of your important gunfights in Blackout take place at really extreme ranges, and you poke people down and wear them down. With the Swordfish, you're probably only going to hit your first shot, and then you're going to send 3 random bullets flinging all around them. They're going to know you have a Swordfish, and they're just going to charge you since you can't full auto them. It's extremely difficult to hit multiple shots at range. You could do better with a sniper, with a DMR. You could do better with a rifle just shooting 1 bullet at a time. At least it would be less wasteful for your ammo. So it's not very good. Now, I will add one caveat here. The Swordfish is kind of filthy up close in Blackout due to the extremely high burst damage output. If you're like close quarters with people and you get a full burst on, you're going to deal a ton of damage to them, especially if you get a full burst in the head, just like you've been doing in multiplayer. That is a brutal amount of damage output, and you can surprise people. You can rock people's world using this as a close quarters combat weapon. That being said, it's not the best close quarters combat weapon. You know, running an SMG or a Hades or a shotgun would probably be better for you, but it is usable in that sense. My recommendation for the Swordfish in Blackout is to only use the Swordfish when you're desperate and try to avoid using it at long ranges. Pick this up if you have no other rifle alternatives. Otherwise, I think I would rather use almost any other rifle in the game. Guys, that is all for this in-depth. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.